If my screen is not visible, one of you can unmute and say me. Okay. So I think you're able to see my screen. So this is your course plan. Okay. So course plan in the sense how we would move out with this particular subject, how would be moving forward. So I'm audible, right? And you're able to see my screen also.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. So what happens is our course, somebody was asking me whether it is a 3 credit or 4 credit. The course is 4 credit. Okay. And there is something like this. Maybe initially you're not so familiar, but at least just have an idea that for each topics what we take, it will be mapped to particular CEOs. Okay. So this is course outcomes. So like say for example, course outcome 1 for PSAT is apply algorithmic thinking to understand, define, and solve problems. So similarly, we have defined course outcomes like CO1, 2, 3, etc. These are certain levels, like it is called Bloom's taxonomy level. In the sense, it is like say understand, remember, apply, those kind of things. Okay, so maybe you will get more familiarized when you move forward. Now let us not confuse with all that. I'm just telling this will be shared to you once your internals, the evaluation pattern, etc. is finalized. I'll share it with you. So as of now, the course plan, majorly what we are focusing is our topics. So number of hours and topics would be there, and what we have learned in each of these concepts. So initially we have introduction, then we have logical thinking, then there is like logical reasoning, problem definition, problem decomposition, etc. Then we have something like algorithm, selection, repetition, and all that, and certain sample algorithms. After which you would have, so in between there is some quiz one, evaluations are also shown. So after 6 classes, tentatively, it is not like exactly you will have, but approximately after 6 to 7 classes you may have. So 2 weeks maybe you may have quiz one. So quiz one would be like a 10 mark small test what you would have. Then you will have certain topics covered, and then there would be a lab evaluation. So it mostly happens for all the sections together in the same week. In the sense, it happens differently, I mean, in different slots, but mostly in the same time period. Like, say, this week, all of you would have something like that. So, lab evaluation one, sorry. Just so after which you would have, please mute yourself only when you are talking to me. You can unmute. Otherwise, it becomes a disturbance for others. So you have lab evaluation one. Then you have, just a second. Yeah, you have midterm exam where you have an online exam and online viva. This is because of your, we are doing it online. We have this. Otherwise, it used to be just a test. Now we have online exam, and also a viva would be conducted where one to one you would be called and I would be asking questions to you. So may not be to all 200 of you. So there will be a split. So certain faculty would be asking, but there would be an online viva where you would join in teams, and then there would be questions asked based on these topics which you had for your test, and you would be answering based on that, and there would be marks awarded. Okay, so those details I will share with you when we start it. Then we have certain other component, I mean other topics to be covered, and then we have a quiz. Then we have, so it is more of a continuous assessment because every now and then you have short tests. The advantage is you're learning only few topics for, like, say, after midterm you had only few topics, then you have quiz 2. So of course you may have only that many topics, so it is less topics, so you can learn fast. So then we have something like list, arrays, algorithms, etc. Then we have searching, fact, recursion, etc. We'll discuss all that topics. Then there is a lab evaluation too. So lab evaluation would be on Flogorithm. So initially 1 or 2 labs we may cover with Scratch, but after which mostly it would be Flogorithm. It's a tool. Okay, so whatever we are covering in theory, or sometimes you may have a separate, because if it is not matching in the sense, the time, when I have theory, by the time I finish, if you, before that, if you get a lab, of course they may start introducing it. So if you have doubts, you can ask in the class when I cover it. So when you practice that, after which you will have a lab evaluation too, then there would be certain. So here we are actually starting C programming after like around 22 classes. We are starting with C programming. So we have a little bit of syntax, etc. taught to you. Then you have quiz 3. Then we have certain topics coming with C programming, and then we have a lab evaluation 3. There will be simple C programs, and then there is some kind of concepts of arrays introduced. Okay, and then there is something called project review, and then there is a final end semester online exam plus online viva. And this is your evaluation pattern. When I say evaluation pattern, what are the components what you would have, and what is the weightage, then whether it's internal and whether it's external, whether it's the lab component, theory component. But this I can't confirm now, because as I mentioned previously, the finalized one would come to you after it is approved by the committee. So I will share, that is why I'm sharing this file with you only after it is approved. Otherwise you may have some idea, and then if there is change, you may get confused. So approximately it would be like this. You have so many evaluation, but they're all mostly in your internal component. Only finally you have external. Kindly mute yourself. So I have already muted everyone, so you don't have to unmute yourself now. Okay. So just continue being on mute. If at all you unmute yourself to say something to me, immediately after talking, you please mute. This is a basic thing to be followed in your online. Anything be, it need not be just my class or any class, any online webinar or anything. I mean, any event, any class, whatever happens, you after you speak, it's better you mute yourself. Okay, so we were talking about so these components, like you have 3 quizzes, you have an online exam and viva, which would be of little higher marks. So it would be conducted out of 50, and your weightage will be 20. And then there will be 3 lab evaluations. Then you have a project. We'll discuss what is all this little more detail after it is approved, because now if I say also, it may not make sense. So we'll discuss that. I'm just showing to you how your course would go. Many of you had that doubt. So I thought I'll just show you. So please mute yourself. It's a request from me. Otherwise, it will be always disturbing to the class. Because you won't be aware that there is a background noise behind you. So you may be listening to me, but then your classmates might be listening to your background noise also. So please mute yourself. Rishi Sastra, I think you did not lower your hand. Did you? I mean, do you have any doubt, or it was raised before? Okay.
Ma'am, no ma'am.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, no problem. Okay. So, are you able to see my screen? What are you able to see now? Is it introduction slide or the previous slide?
Yes, ma'am. Introduction is
Yes,
visible.
ma'am.
Okay,
Introduction
okay,
slide.
okay, fine. Thank you. Just a second. So, this is our, we are just starting our class today. Okay, so we are just going to talk about what is this PSAT. Okay, initially when we introduced this course to your seniors, it was called CTPS. So if you have friends or family who have learned it before, they would mention it as CTPS. Later it was termed as PSAT. So let us see what is there in our introduction slide. Problem solving and algorithmic thinking is what our course is, and course code is 19 CSE 100. Okay, and it is a 4 credit course. So what is this? So it's, so when we say computational thinking, it's actually a fundamental skill, of course, now, because you have a lot of things going on in the internet, and then computationally also. So we need to have an idea of what are the principles, what are the methods, and all that. So our of course we need to know the tools, systems, etc. also, but then initially we need to know the underlying principles, methods, etc. So here problem solving methodologies are mainly what we discuss, and the tools which would help it. So this is our course outcome. We'll see it later. We have lab component, which we have flow algorithm mainly. 1 or 2 classes we may have Scratch, but Mainly it would focus on Flowgorithm. Flowgorithm version I would say to you later on, but Scratch you can install any. The link I have shared in this same Teams as a post I have shared. If you have already got the link, it's fine, but few of you had asked, so I've shared it. And then in the end, you may have a little bit of C language also. So evaluation pattern we'll discuss later in detail. So what is this human-based computing? Okay, so Second World War time. So I think as history or somewhere here and there you would have heard about it. So it is like say so some networking concepts if you have heard or things like that. Actually, they will always refer to this problem. So during Second World War, so what happened was they were trying to crack codes, like say in the sense people are there on the say opposition side, they are sending some message as say encoded messages. So I think in schools you would have learned, no, like say alphabets. Maybe say if A is represented as 1, or maybe A is actually converted to 1, but I add say some 2. So A is represented as 3, B is represented as 5, sorry, 4, and so on, something like that. So when somebody sees this message, they won't be able to understand what it is, because you have not written in the way they have. It is actually English or your language. You have encoded it with some kind of um, code, isn't it? So I think you would have learned some bit of this in your schools, like say some alphabets are replaced with some other alphabets and then you send the message. People may not be able to understand. So that is what they are talking about. It can be in any ways. Okay, these are some kind of base where we can send the message, like you can make codes, or also in your schools when you have friends also you may have some codes, isn't it, so that others don't understand. So maybe you have some names which they don't understand, or you have some codes so that the teacher does not understand what you are saying, something like that. So the main purpose is to maintain the secrecy. Okay, so when it is world war, of course your strategies need to be kept as secret, so the opposition team should not be able to understand. So we also make codes, they also make codes, so we try to crack the code so that we can fight against them. So something of this sort was happening during Second World War. Okay, so what should be done? We should be able to see their communications and then try to break the code. Okay, so what used to happen is there were so many people, a very great team, like a large number of people sitting together and then trying to decipher. Means you have we say encipher and then decipher. So what happens is you encode or decode, that kind of thing. So you make codes, and then like say for example, if you have made some codes, say for example, I'm just giving a very simple, I mean, I don't know whether it's sensible also. Assume that for PSAT you're saying say some flower or some other name, or say some ABC, something like that. Instead of PSAT you may say ABC. So assume that you come to the class and say ABC. None of us would understand. Only your friends who were there when you coded this would understand. But how do you understand? Like say for example, one of you say register. We don't have a register number now. So maybe you have made this code for F section students. I'm just taking an example. So now if G section students or H section students or me myself hear this, we don't understand anything. But another F section student would be able to understand, because they know to decode it, because they know that PSAT means ABC. Or when I say PSAT, PSAT, each alphabet is encoded with a different alphabet, something like that, or a symbol. So some encoding method you have used, so you have to decode it, only then they will understand. So that part can be done only if you know what kind of strategy you have followed to encode your message. So your team would know, that is your F section might know, others won't know. So what is the aim of others? We are trying to find out or decipher, that is we try to extract the message from this encoded message. So that is what the team was doing to kind of understand what is the encoded messages sent by the opponent team. Hope you understood this. You would have at least seen in the movies, if not in schools. Okay, if at any point of time, if it is some point is not clear, you can unmute and ask. Okay, so over the period of time, mass of communications, so like maybe initially they were sending some few messages in a day or something. Maybe after uh, maybe years, it started like, or after days, it started like more and more communications, and then it is not very easy for human beings to sit and decipher all these messages. So it needs more manpower and more time. So we don't have that much time. It was a war situation. If you decrypt or decode their message after say 10 days, by that time they would have attacked us. So that kind of situation. So we need to maybe finish it quick, and also we need to use less manpower. Okay, so that's what they're saying. Now there is, so that is how these kind of requirements turned up initially. So initially people started working together, and slowly they started having so slowly machine power, human power was not sufficient. So slowly they started designing machines that could do some complex calculations. Okay, so what happened is, it's not like our modern computers. There were some basic machines which actually could do some what is that, complex calculations. Speed and accuracy was actually best. So they could do it in quicker time than human beings. Also accurate, like if you give a very large number also, if you have trained them well, of course, like the steps etc taught to them, of course it will learn well. I mean, in the sense, it would give you a best result. um, so that is what initially, we are not talking about the recent machines etc. um, so what happens, so so this is how slowly our machines or computers started coming up. Okay, so so let us see, we'll go into that. So initially there were human based computing, but then of course it is what happens is, it's time consuming and we need a lot of manpower. So I think I mean, so what happens is, uh, we have more machine based computers slowly coming into picture. So it is more what we can say, give me a minute, just a second. I'm getting a call, just a second, just yeah, I've muted myself, just a second. Yeah, sorry, I got an urgent call. Okay, so so we were talking about human-based computing, and then slowly machines coming into picture. So now let us talk about. So when we talk about machines, of course, we have data, information, etc. So now what is? I'll make it full screen. Yeah. So what is data and information? I think you would have heard about these two terminologies, isn't it? So we have data and information. Can somebody say me without reading this. Okay, just because I've shown you. Can you differentiate what is data, what is information? Any one of you? Just unmute and say me, what do you feel? What is the difference of data and information?
Ma'am, the figures which are processed are called information, and the figures which are unprocessed are called data.
Can you repeat? I did not hear you properly.
Ma'am, the facts and figures which are processed is called information, and the facts and figures which are not processed and fragmented is called data.
Okay. Somebody else? I think someone.
Ma'am, data
Ma'am,
can
data is
be
like
raw,
a
meaning
raw
that it
facts
need
and
not
the
have a
information is
meaning, but
processed.
information
So
will have
two
a
are
meaning.
talking parallelly. One of you can continue. Yeah. Data can be.
Okay, so like data can be like, it need not have a meaning. It can be like a raw data or something like that, but information has a like specific meaning.
Okay. Okay.
Ma'am,
Okay. So yeah.
ma'am, data is which we have given, and the combination of data is information.
Okay. So what we say, of course, what you all told is making sense. So when we say raw facts, what we have, so that is data. We have not done any processing. It is just there. Okay. But we may not have any meaningful information out of it. Okay. Whereas when we say information, we get some, what is that? Something it is processed, and then we get some idea out of it. So like say for example, I have roughly around 200 plus students in the class, and say I have just simply displayed 200 students mark. It may not make any sense. It is just some numbers, isn't it? So like I have an Excel or a table where I've just simply written everybody's marks for say maybe midterm or maybe quiz. So it may not make much sense. Whereas if I like say sort in descending order, then you would know what like who got the highest, who got the lowest, etc. Or if I put the average, then you can compare on the class average, where do you stand, something like that. So now after processing, you get some information or you get some idea out of it, whereas data is just a raw facts, what is there available. Okay, so raw unorganized facts which is that need to be processed. So that is your data, and it can be something like simple, random, and sometimes useless, because if it is organized only, it makes sense to us. If it is simply there, we may not have any meaning for that. So say for example, I have all the first year students, just names. So it may not make sense. Now if I put them alphabetical order, sort it, I can say maybe with A, how many students are there. So I get some information from that. So if I have simply some names, it is a data. But then when I sort it with respect to the, alphabetically sort it, I can get more idea. Or maybe I have say 1,000 students details. Okay, all the details. So like say administrative department is entering all of your details, like where you come from, so many details. Where you have done your plus two, and which course you have taken, how much marks you have, all that is there. But then even though I have all this, you may not get any information as such. It is just some data, it is available to me. But what if I filter out, or if I sort, I select only the students from say a particular state, or students who are having above 85% marks, so that I can give some scholarship. So when I do that processing, like sorting, filtering and all, there is some kind of information. So information is when the data is processed, organized, structured, or presented in a given context so as to make it useful. Okay. So given a scenario, you should be able to identify whether it's a data or an information. Okay. So you can also think of certain examples. Okay. So now, of course, we have a lot of computing in picture. So software is also very important in that scene. So what is softwares? Can you name a few softwares which you use? I am not assuming, I'm assuming none of you know any programming. Okay. So that is not what I'm asking. In your real life, what are the softwares? What do you use? Anyone? Those who have not answered already, let somebody else take a chance. Any software which you have used. Every day you are using some
Android.
software.
Ma'am,
Sorry,
Google Chrome. Google Chrome.
Chrome. Okay. Then,
Mozilla Firefox.
okay.
Windows 11.
Bing.
Java.
Web browser.
Microsoft, ma'am.
Yeah, browser. So they three are same, no? Browser
Okay.
Excel.
and Chrome
Microsoft.
and
Android.
Firefox are
WhatsApp.
Android.
WhatsApp.
Excel,
Yeah,
ma'am.
WhatsApp,
Excel.
MS Excel, Microsoft Excel.
Excel. Yes, yes, yes. So these are all softwares.
Firefox.
Paint.
Yes,
Microsoft Paint.
yes, yes,
Teams
yes.
also.
Teams, ma'am. Teams.
So you always use many softwares, so that's why you're able to come quickly with so many names. So most of you use WhatsApp. So WhatsApp is how do you install from your Play Store and you say it's an app. So it's an application software. That's what we say actually. Okay. So but it is also a software. Okay. We cannot. So it's either a software or a hardware. There is something in the middle also, but assume we are talking about software or hardware. So of course Android, Windows, WhatsApp, Excel, PPT, Word, and your Teams, all these are softwares, not hardware. So now when we say software, they're all softwares, but there are certain different kinds of software also. So like you have application software, system software, etc. So when we say application software, like say WhatsApp. So without WhatsApp also your phone can work, isn't it? It's specifically for communication, like say interacting with different groups or different family members, friends, etc. Similarly, Facebook. That's also an app. It's an application software. So it's not compulsory like your system should function, then you should have a Facebook or WhatsApp. Of course, you may feel it's very critical, but then for a system or a phone, it is not a compulsory software. But then in the sense it's not there for its functioning, whereas if you take Android, so you are not installing it for your particular specific requirement. Android is there for your system or your phone to work. Windows is there in your phone or laptop for that to work. So those are like system softwares. And when we say Word, PPT, and then Firefox, all these were examples for application software. I'm just giving a rough examples. I mean, rough idea of what is application software and system software. So mentioning all that, so we know that we have lot of softwares. Okay. So software technologies were possible due to power of computing and critical thinking skills. Okay, so the base is finally computational thinking. You were able to have computational thinking. That is why you were able to build softwares. Okay. So computational thinking is a term coined by a particular person called Janet M. Bing of CMU. Communications of ACM, this is a particular body, research articles, etc. get published in ACM. So this is authored by her, introduced the terms of computational thinking, and it is not, when you say computational thinking, you shouldn't think that it is the way in which computer thinks. It's not that. It is the way to think like a computer scientist. Okay. So what is computer science all about? Of course, you are familiar with what is computer science. So it's study of how to represent, manipulate, etc. the information uh, which are related to natural, engineered, social, and different systems. Okay, so how do you represent and manipulate the information? So that is the study of that is the computer science. Okay, so what is computational thinking? Computers, these are like very basic facts. That's why I'm not like explaining so many things out of it. Okay, these are just what is it? That's what we are talking about. But still, if you don't feel that you're not clear about it, you can unmute and ask. So computational thinking, when we say computers can be used to help us solve problems. But before that, what we should do? So is it computer itself starting to solve problems, or we are training it how to solve? So we are making it solve the problem, isn't it? So somebody has designed the computer. So and we write programs or we make certain, like, so when I told operating system, sorry, when I said system software, application software, or you said Facebook, WhatsApp, or maybe Windows, Android, everything, they're all actually developed by human, isn't it? So we train them how to do this. So, or maybe when you say find the say add two numbers, like very huge number, or multiply very huge numbers, it is not that they suddenly solve it on their own. There are certain ways how you can add two numbers or multiply two numbers. That steps are already uh, fed to them, okay, using which they are able to give us the answers. So how do we do that? That's what they are saying. Before a problem can be tackled, problem itself and the ways in which it could be solved, it should be known to us. So when we are, say for example, we have a problem, like say we have to develop a game, or we have to say develop an app for say maybe mark entry, something like that. So before that, before you start developing or coding or anything, first you should understand the problem, and then you should think what are the different ways you can solve this. Then only you should address it. So that is, these kind of thinking is what happens in our computational thinking. Okay, so it allows us to take a complex problem, understand what the problem is, and then develop possible solutions. We can then present these solutions in a way that a computer, human, or both can understand. Okay. So there is something like four cornerstones of computational thinking. Okay. So that is decomposition, abstraction, pattern recognition, and algorithm thinking, algorithms. So this is actually like four legs of a table or a chair without which it will fall. So computational thinking, four cornerstones we say, or like four legs of a table or chair. This is the basic building blocks of your computational thinking, that is decomposition, abstraction, pattern recognition, algorithm. Can we say what is each of this? So decomposition, I think the name is more simple. You would know, breaking down a complex problem or a system into small manageable parts. So we usually say, divide and conquer. So same way. So when you have like a huge problem, so how does it make sense? Like say for example, I ask you, I'm like say splitting you into different teams, and I give you a very huge problem. What would you do? Like say if there are five in a team, you may take that whole problem, you may split it into smaller problems, and you will say, I would solve this part, I will solve the second part, I will solve the third part, and so on, isn't it? So that is your decomposition. A complex problem you are breaking down into simple small problems which can be managed. Okay. Now pattern recognition. So what is pattern recognition? So looking for similarities and among and within the problems. So we have it more further. So this is just like introducing this. Okay. So what is pattern recognition? So we have, let me say a very basic example. Okay. It's a very obvious kind of an example, but let us see that way. So I say, maybe when I say cat, you all are able to relate what is cat, isn't it? Because or when I show you a cat's picture, you are able to relate that it is a cat because you have already seen many cats, and you know how the cat would look like. Say it has a tail, it has two eyes, it has a particular feature, it has a particular skin color. So you have already seen that kind of organism, and then I mean animal, and then you are able to suddenly, when I show you a picture of a cat, you understand that it is a cat because already you have seen such similar patterns. So your brain would look for similar thing which you have seen earlier, and then you identify it to be a cat, isn't it? So that is how we usually in our what is that, in real life, that is how we do it. So when you are given a problem, so what happens, like say for exam, you are given a problem, you look for something similar solved in class or not. That's what you first think of. So when I say, for example, I give you a question to write a program or something like that in our course, so you would think whether ma'am has solved some similar questions in our class. So for that, how did we write? That's how you come up with a solution. Or you have on your own certain examples you have tried. And so similar patterns, I mean similar things, whether we have seen that pattern you are trying to recognize when you get a problem. So that is called pattern recognition. Okay. So now in terms of software, like say for example, if you are asked to develop say a gaming application, or say an application to enter marks. So you will think whether you have used certain, or if it is game, it is more sensible. You would have used different games, isn't it? I mean, gaming applications, gaming softwares. So you will look for like similar gaming applications. What did they have? What kind of features they had? And how did they give rewards? And when did you lose? All those things will come into your mind, and then you would come up with some solutions. So that is your pattern recognition. So pattern recognition means looking for similarities among and within the problems. Okay. Then there is something called abstraction. Okay. I am audible, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
ma'am.
Thank you. Yeah. Abstraction. So when we say abstraction, it is focusing on important information only, ignoring irrelevant details. So like say for example, I am saying a very basic example just to get that idea. Okay. So don't write the same example when I ask for the exam. You can write little better examples. This is just for your understanding. So when I say abstraction, okay. So for example, say if we were in class, it would have been more sensible, but still assume that we are in an actual physical class. And I say, please close the door. What would you do? You will directly go and close the door, isn't it? Will I ask you, stand up from your place, move this many steps forward, go near the door, open the knob and close, I mean, latch it and then come back and sit. This much instructions I won't give you, isn't it? It's irrelevant information. It is obvious, you know that. So you won't tell all these details. Like I may not mention all these details. It is understood that when I say open the door or close the door, you know the steps. So irrelevant details are ignored and important information is only shared to you. That is called abstraction. Okay. So we will see certain examples when it comes. So that is basically when we say abstraction, it is ignoring irrelevant details and important information only is shown. Okay. Then there is something called algorithms. So what is algorithm? So developing a step-by-step solution to the problem. Okay. Or rules to follow to solve the problem. So when I say division, so like say for example to a fourth standard student or a child, when you teach division, you teach them the rule, isn't it? Like you put the number here, dividend divisor in a particular place, and then you will take digit by digit and then see which number we can write so that it is something less than this. If not, you have to take the next digit, something of this sort. You can write a step by step method how you can come up to a solution, isn't it? That's how you will do a division. Or even when you have a multiplication, when you have say 4-digit numbers to be multiplied, you will write, I mean, if you want to teach to a smaller child, what will you do? You will tell them the step by step solution how you will handle, isn't it? It's so this is called our developing a step by step solution to the problem. That is called algorithm. Okay, so we develop algorithms. So given a problem, the step by step solution to that is called our algorithm. Okay, and the rules to be followed. So these four cornerstones are very important. Okay, in computational thinking. That's what they say, they are like legs of a table. Okay, one leg is missing, the table, because these are very important when you're talking about computational thinking. Okay, so now what is program? So if I am quick, like if you feel the speed is very high, I don't worry, I'll repeat, like we'll go through again once more in the next class. Any point of time something is not clear, please ask. So what do you mean by program? So I think you would have, if you have heard about it, you would say step by step instructions, something like that. So when we have human based computations, they were also given a that is what I was telling. Like say for example, when you teach to a student, like say of fourth standard student, and maybe he or she understands English, so you will write your step by step rules to that child so that he or she can understand, and then how to do a long multiplication in that particular language, what he or she can follow. So that is what you would do. Similarly, if it is computer programs, that is also just step by step instructions for a particular task, but that would be in different computer programming languages. Okay, so that it will be more understood to the computer. But obviously, when we say understood to the computer, it's usually the binary, which is 0 and 1, because it's a machine hardware, binary in the sense on or off. Okay, but we are talking about computer programming languages in which we will code or we will give instructions, and it would be finally translated to some binary form. Okay. So that is what, when we say program, it is actually the step-by-step rules, but in particular languages. So you will have certain syntax, etc. You may not know what is syntax. It's okay. We'll come to it later. But understand that what is programs. Now algorithms are step-by-step instructions. Okay. So actions to do and order. Yeah. You wanted to say something? Somebody has unmuted. Please mute yourselves. This is the problem with this online class. Just a second. See, you have to unmute, mute yourself, because every time I cannot mute everyone. I am not able to mute also. I think all of you muted. Okay. Okay, just let me. Okay. We were talking. Sorry. You're able to still see my screen, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So algorithms we were talking. So algorithm is also both algorithm and programs are similar, but program is like in a specific language. So you have you may say C program or Python program, etc. Whereas algorithm is not specific to any language. It is just steps. Okay. So step-by-step instructions are algorithms. So the actions to do and the order to do in these steps, and instructions. So algorithms like, say, what we have in our real life. So of course, doing this long division, long multiplication, finding prime numbers, etc. in your schools you would have done. So there are certain steps what you follow. So those instructions, step-by-step instructions, what you have learned, that is also kind of algorithm. Or maybe you can say how to brush your teeth. So you may feel that is very silly, but then now, since you have learned it and done it for maybe 18 years or more than that, you may feel it silly. But to a child of, say, 1 year or 2 year old, they may not know how to do, how to brush the teeth. So we may give instructions, isn't it? So take your brush, then apply the paste, and so on. So that full step, what you give, step-by-step instruction, what you give is your algorithm. Okay, a set of instruction how to solve a Rubik's cube. So similar to Rubik's cube, there are so many puzzles. Of course, devising the algorithm is very complex task. Rubik's cube is one of the most complex. I think you guys could have tried, etc. There will be different methods, approaches in which you solve and like reach it quickly and all that. Rubik's cube. Computational thinking in practice. I think we have reached the time. Maybe I'll stop it here. Don't worry, I'll just browse through again next class. I'll put the material also here, so that if there is something, you can just go through and then get back to me. Okay? You want to ask anything?